There's a Stoic concept so powerful that many avoid talking about it because it cuts through all excuses, strips away comfort, and forces you to change now. This might be the most uncomfortable sentence you'll hear today, but it can also be the most liberating. Imagine for a moment that everything you complain about, everything you say that holds you back, is nothing more than a trap you feed yourself. And this is precisely where the provocation comes in. Are you ready to face the naked truth, without masks, without excuses, and without crutches? Because if you are, this video isn't just another YouTube video. It could be the turning point between continuing to live in mediocrity or starting to build an unshakable life. Before we continue, I want to challenge you. Comment on the word truth now, if you have the courage to listen to the end, because only those who comment are truly committed to facing this profound reflection. Don't think this is just distant philosophy or a complicated intellectual conversation. No. Let's talk about you, your real life, your daily challenges, what you face when the door closes, when the world demands it, when you sabotage yourself. It's about looking within with brutal honesty and assuming a control that no one can take away from you. It's about understanding that discomfort is a teacher, that pain can be a compass, and that running away from it only prolongs suffering. Maybe right now your mind is trying to escape, inventing excuses, but I tell you, this is your ego screaming, because it knows it's going to be dismantled. And this is exactly what Stoic philosophy teaches: the power to nip illusion in the bud, to stop waiting for things to change on their own, and to finally take the lead in your journey. If you've ever felt tired of repeating the same mistakes, of postponing decisions, of blaming external factors, this video is the reality check you need. It's not about fleeting motivation. It's not about pretty phrases to post on Instagram. It's about confronting the most uncomfortable side of your existence and discovering that behind this discomfort lies your true strength. That's why I insist, comment truth below. Because when you write, you take a step of commitment. You signal that you will no longer hide behind excuses. What I'm about to reveal to you may be hard to hear, but it's exactly what separates those who live reacting to the winds of life from those who take the helm and navigate any storm. And remember, provocation isn't meant to push you away. It's meant to awaken you. This is just the beginning, but if you stick with me until the end, you'll realize that this Stoic concept isn't just an idea. It's a silent weapon that can completely change the way you live, think, and act. So let's get through this initial discomfort together and open the door to real transformation. The forbidden concept, the one that many don't have the courage to say out loud, is called Amor Fati. This expression comes from Latin and means to love fate, and here lies a fundamental difference that separates the strong from the weak. It's not enough to simply endure life. It's not enough to simply tolerate events. You need to learn to love even what you didn't choose. Imagine for a moment all the things that have gone wrong in your life: the loss of an opportunity, the unexpected breakup, the illness that took you by surprise, the failures you swore would be the end. Usually, the natural reaction is to resist, complain, feel angry, or play the victim. But Stoicism comes as a reality check. What if all this wasn't against you, but rather part of a path you don't yet understand? What if, instead of fighting it, you accepted it with the strength of someone who knows that life never misses a beat? That's what Amor Fati represents. The courage to look at each stone in the path and, instead of cursing, be grateful, because it's shaping who you need to become. And I want to challenge you. Comment fate here if you've ever experienced something that seemed to be against you, but now realize it was precisely what strengthened you. When you comment, it's not just engagement for the video, it's also a way of declaring that you choose to live this concept, that you're willing to stop fighting the tide and learn to sail with it. Now, I know this may sound uncomfortable, even unfair at times. After all, how can you love pain, loss, or failure? It seems insane, but it's precisely at This point that Stoic philosophy becomes revolutionary. The great Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius, reminded us daily that we have no control over what happens outside of us, but we do have control over how we react. And Amor Fati goes further. It doesn't limit itself to enduring or conforming. It invites us to embrace events as if they were necessary, as if every detail, no matter how harsh it may seem, were indispensable for building our character, our strength, and our worldview. When you accept, you find peace, but when you love, you find power. Loving your destiny doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean letting life drag you down. It means transforming every experience, even the most painful, into fuel for your growth. So think, what would happen if, instead of resisting, you learned to embrace everything? What would change in you if you understood that even pain has a role as a teacher? So, comment destiny here in the comments, because this simple act could be your first step toward that Stoic mindset that few have the courage to adopt, but which can free you from the weight you've carried for years. And here's the truth many avoid. As long as you see life as an unfair battle, you'll live tired, resentful, and always going against the grain. But when you awaken to Amor Fati, when you understand that nothing happens by chance and that every obstacle is an opportunity in disguise, everything changes. You stop being a victim and become a protagonist. You stop living, stuck in the "why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "what can I learn from this?" It's a leap of consciousness that completely changes the way you view your problems. Frustration becomes a training ground for patience. Loss becomes a lesson in gratitude. Rejection becomes a strengthening of your identity. What once seemed like an enemy now reveals itself as an ally. And I know it may be hard to believe right now, but try putting this perspective into practice for just a few days, and you'll notice how the weight lifts, how your mind clears, how life takes on new meaning. This is the power of the concept that almost no one teaches you, but which can radically transform your journey. So, before we continue, I want you to say destiny to reinforce this commitment to yourself. This simple gesture is a symbol that you will no longer live running away from life, but rather learning to love it completely, even the parts you didn't choose, because it is precisely there that your true strength lies hidden. The shock of radical acceptance is like a silent blow that, when finally understood, forever changes the way you see life. Most people suffer more than they need to because they insist on fighting the uncontrollable. Need examples? The loss that won't return, the decision that can't be undone, the word that's already been said, the death that can't be reversed, the mistake that can't be erased. Still, people insist on resisting, fighting the past, carrying a weight on their chest that will never lift. Stoicism teaches us something hard to hear, but liberating to practice. Your pain doesn't come from what happened, but from resisting what already is. And I want you to take a deep breath now and think, how many years of your life have been spent in anger, hurt, resentment, with this silent wish that reality were different? That's precisely where the invisible prison resides. As long as you resist, you bleed. As long as you fight the unchangeable, you destroy yourself. That's why I want you to comment acceptance below, because writing that word is more than interacting with this video. It's declaring to yourself that you're willing to let go of that weight and finally understand that accepting isn't weakness, but the first step towards true freedom. When I talk about radical acceptance, I'm not talking about conformity, about folding your arms and resigning yourself to life. Acceptance isn't about giving up. It's exactly the opposite, radical. Acceptance is having the courage to look reality in the eye without distortion, without denial, and say, "This happened and I can't change it." It seems simple, but it's the hardest thing for the human mind to do, because the ego hates loss, hates not being in control. But think with me, what's the point of denying pain that already exists? What's the point of running away from something that's already happened? Denial only prolongs the agony, while acceptance opens the door for healing. The Philosopher Epictetus said that it's not things that hurt us, but how we react to them. And here's the key. When you accept, the wound begins to heal. When you resist, you pull out the stitches yourself every day. So, ask yourself, do you want to keep repeating the cycle of suffering, or are you willing to embrace this change in mindset? Comment on acceptance now, because that word will become a kind of pact with yourself, a reminder that it's not worth wasting energy fighting against. Something that cannot be changed. And here's the kicker. You don't have to like what happened, but you do have to accept that it happened. Only then will you free yourself from the invisible prison of resistance. Think about how many times you've said to yourself, "This couldn't have happened to me." This phrase is poison because it fuels anger. Life doesn't ask if you want it. Life simply happens. And it's up to you to choose whether you'll spend the rest of your energy rebelling or redirect that energy toward growing, learning, and strengthening yourself. Radical acceptance is a cut to the ego. It's the moment you recognize that you don't have control over everything, but you do have control over how you move forward from here. Is it hard? Yes. Is it uncomfortable? Very. But it's the only way to a life of peace, because there's no peace in denial, only in acceptance. So I repeat, comment acceptance below, because this is more than just interacting with this video. It's registering your decision to no longer be a slave to resistance. This is the shock of radical acceptance, the moment when you release the weight of the impossible and make room to finally live what is within your reach. The true strength of Stoicism lies not in avoiding pain, but in transforming it. And this is the point many fail to understand. Life will not spare you from falls, losses, and frustrations, but how you deal with each of these situations is what determines whether you will be crushed or strengthened. What you call tragedy, the Stoic calls training. What you call loss, the Stoic calls opportunity. This phrase may seem harsh, but it is one of the greatest secrets of those who have learned to walk without breaking in the face of difficulties. Think of all the times you believed it was the end, and yet you survived. Pain didn't destroy you, it shaped you. It was in those moments when you thought you couldn't take it anymore that your resilience increased. It was when all seemed lost that you discovered a side of yourself you would never have known otherwise. This is what Stoicism calls transforming pain into strength, using each blow of life as fuel to become someone more prepared, more aware, and more resilient. So I want you to comment now on the word strength, because writing this is committing to the idea that your pain will not be in vain, that you will use each tear as an impulse to stand up even stronger. It's curious how most people view pain as a punishment, when in reality it can be the greatest gift life offers. Of course, not in the moment it occurs, but in what it awakens in you. Those who run from pain also run from the chance to grow. Those who reject discomfort also reject the opportunity to become stronger. The Stoics were clear about this. There is no solid character without adversity, no wisdom without suffering, no strength without scars. Pain is a laboratory of the soul. It is through pain that we discover how far we can go. And perhaps you've already noticed this in your own life. That disappointment that seemed unbearable taught you to value yourself more. That failure that burned your self-esteem was precisely what gave you the discipline to not make the same mistakes. That loss that seemed unfair was what showed you how brief life is and how every moment matters. Pain is a harsh teacher, but also the most sincere. And if you have the courage to listen to the lessons it brings, you'll realize it never comes to destroy you, but to hone what's strongest within you. Write strength in the comments if this insight has already begun to resonate with you, because this word can become a reminder that no suffering is wasted when you decide to transform it into learning. Now imagine how your life would change if, instead of viewing obstacles as enemies, you began to see them as allies. Each loss would be a new resilience workout. Each failure would be a step in building your character. Each rejection would be a way to redirect your energy to where it truly matters. This is the true power of transforming pain into strength. You stop being a hostage to events and become a strategist of your own life. Nothing paralyzes you anymore because you understand that even what seemed against you can work in your favor. This Stoic mindset isn't just a nice phrase, it's a practice that can free you from the emotional prison most people live in. When you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "How can I use this to my advantage?" everything changes. It's at that moment that you realize that life isn't trying to tear you down, but rather to prepare you. And if you believe this, if you have the courage to apply this philosophy in practice, you'll realize that the pain that once tried to break you will be the very foundation of your greatest strength. So comment strength below to cement this commitment, because every time you remember this word, you will remember that nothing, absolutely nothing, is capable of stopping someone who has decided to transform suffering into fuel. When you understand the power of Amor Fati, you discover a freedom few people have ever experienced in life, because those who accept everything as part of the path become indestructible. Nothing, absolutely nothing, can stop someone who has learned to use each event as a stepping stone, not an obstacle. If everything that happens can be used, nothing can stop you. This is the essence of Stoic philosophy, transforming every blow into a lesson, every fall into an impulse, every loss into clarity. And that's why the Stoics didn't break in the face of pain. They accepted it as an inevitable part of existence, and instead of resisting, they grew stronger. What does this mean in practice? It means that if someone tries to humiliate you, you gain the opportunity to practice humility. If life takes something from you, you learn to value what's left. If a door closes, you are invited to seek new paths. When you live Amor Fati, there is no longer bad luck, injustice, or senseless tragedy. There is only raw material that can be molded into wisdom and strength. This is what makes you free, the understanding that nothing can steal your inner peace, because you've learned to use even that which seems to be against you. And I want to challenge you now. Comment on the word freedom below, because writing this is declaring that you seek this inner strength, this emotional independence that cannot be shaken by anything external. Imagine what it would be like to live a life where no event has the power to destroy you, where external circumstances no longer dictate the rhythm of your mood, your peace, or your strength. This is the freedom that Amor Fati generates, the freedom of not depending on an ideal world to be happy. The problem with most people is that they condition their peace on controlling circumstances. They want everything to be perfect to feel good. But the Stoic knows this is a fragile illusion. The world will never fit into your plans, and if your happiness depends on it, you will always be a slave to events. Those who practice Amor Fati are invincible because they don't expect life to be perfect. They learn to transform everything into an opportunity. This mindset completely changes the way you wake up in the morning. Problems stop being monsters and become invitations to train your mind and character. Every situation becomes part of a larger game where the only goal is growth. And this is precisely where freedom is born, when you understand that you don't need to run away from anything, that you don't need to avoid suffering at all costs, because everything that arrives can be integrated into your path. If this resonates with you, comment on freedom now, because this word will be your reminder that true peace comes from total acceptance, not from the illusion of control. And here's the bottom line of this reflection. The freedom born of Amor Fati is a strength no one can take away from you. No matter what anyone does, no matter what happens, you remain whole because you've learned to love even the inevitable. Think of the great Stoics. Marcus Aurelius, even as an emperor, lost children, faced wars, betrayals, illnesses, and yet he wrote in his meditations that each event was a necessary part of life. He didn't allow himself to be corrupted by pain, fear, or vanity. Why? because his freedom was within him, not in external circumstances. And that's exactly what I want you to understand. If everything that happens can be used, nothing can stop you. The world can try to knock you down, but you don't break. People can hurt you, but you don't lose yourself. Life can change from one second to the next, but you remain steadfast because you understand that everything is part of the journey. This is being truly free, living in a state where nothing external can rob you of your peace. So, before we continue, comment freedom in the comments, because that word will mark the moment you decided to no longer be a slave to circumstances, but rather master of your own mind and destiny. This is the ultimate freedom that Amor Fati offers, and when you discover it, you realize that nothing can stop you. If we've talked so far about the power of Amor Fati and the freedom it generates, it's time to put it into practice, because it's no use just understanding the concept intellectually. You need to live it in your daily life. And the first step is simple yet profound. Choose a current difficulty in your life, something that's truly taking away your peace, and see it as a necessary part of your growth. Look at your biggest problem right now. Imagine if it were exactly the training you need. This shift in perspective is a game changer, because what was previously seen as an enemy suddenly becomes an ally. If you're facing a difficult relationship, see it as a training in patience, communication, and self-control. If it's a financial crisis, see it as a training in discipline, resilience, and creativity. If it's a personal loss, understand it as a training in gratitude for the brevity of life and the opportunity to value each moment. When you begin to practice this consciously, you realize that no obstacle is just pain. They all carry a hidden lesson. So, I want you to comment on the word workout now, because by writing this, you not only connect with the video, but you also commit to transforming what is weighing you down into an opportunity for evolution. The daily practice of Amor Fati doesn't have to be complicated. It begins with small gestures, in the moments when you feel like complaining, resisting, or rebelling. The secret is to stop for a few seconds, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, if this were part of my training, what could I learn here? This simple question completely changes the way your mind reacts. Instead of wallowing in frustration, you begin to seek meaning. And when you find meaning, the pain loses its power because it ceases to be just empty suffering and becomes fuel for growth. This doesn't mean it will be easy, nor that the pain will disappear immediately, but it does mean it gains purpose, and purpose is what separates those who break from those who grow stronger. Of course, your ego will resist. It will want to blame. It will want to say it's unfair. But remember, there is no training without resistance. It is precisely this, resistance, that builds your inner strength. It is in this friction that transformation happens. So, whenever the weight seems unbearable, remember, it's not punishment, it's training. And if you believe this, comment training now to solidify this new outlook on life. And the most powerful thing about this practice is that the more you practice it, the more unshakable you become. Imagine what it would be like to live knowing that no problem has the power to stop you, because they can all be used to your advantage. This is the mindset of a true Stoic. Nothing is a waste of time, nothing is useless, nothing is an enemy. Everything is raw material for your growth. This mindset gives you a sense of freedom and control few people experience, because while most run from pain, you transform it into energy. While many see tragedies, you see training. While others collapse, you grow. And make no mistake, this is not a distant utopia. It's a choice you can make today. Start now. Choose your biggest problem and ask yourself the question, if this were the training I need, what would I be learning? This simple attitude can completely change your relationship with life. So, before we continue, comment training below, because this word will symbolize your commitment to no longer run from difficulties, but to transform them into strength. This is the path of Amor Fati in practice. Reject nothing, use everything, always grow. We've reached the final point of this reflection, and I want you to remember something very clearly. The forbidden Stoic concept isn't magic. It's not a trick that solves everything in seconds. It's brutal, raw, and direct. It demands courage from you to face life as it is, without filters, without illusions, without trying to escape the pain that inevitably appears. It asks you to accept, love, and use even the wounds and cuts that fate places in your path. Because those who learn to transform pain into fuel, difficulty into training, and failure into wisdom become unshakable. This is where Amor Fati comes in, loving destiny, loving life exactly as it is. It doesn't mean being passive, it means being invincible. It means that no one, absolutely no one, can stop you, because every blow you take is transformed into strength. This is the point where philosophy ceases to be just theory and becomes living, real, applied practice. This is the moment when you look life in the eye and say, I accept everything, I use everything, I grow with everything. And it is in that moment that you realize that even in the worst storms there is freedom, because you are no longer fighting against reality, but walking with it. And if this message resonated with you, if something awakened within you, and you feel ready to embrace this concept, I want you to help me spread the word. Like this video, because it shows the algorithm that this content needs to reach more people who are also seeking strength and clarity. Share this video with someone you know who is struggling and needs a new way of seeing life. And most importantly, comment now with the word Amor Fati, because this will be your public, visible commitment that you are ready to apply this philosophy. When you write Amor Fati in the comments, you not only increase our engagement, but you also declare that you are entering a new level of consciousness. So, let's go together. Love of destiny, love of life, love even in pain. The forbidden Stoic concept isn't for everyone, but if you've made it this far, it's because you're ready. So show that you're ready and comment now, Amor Fati.